Hello, Canada. Welcome back to another edition of the Canadian.Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. Well, it is a day of celebration and yet a day of mourning. First day without having the loser goofball IQ of 86 WEF nation-destroying Trudeau out of power. But we brought in an even larger threat to not only our democracy, but who we are on the world stage and as a proud nation. And his tenure didn't start off very well. I'm going to start off with Trudeau leaving his office for the last time. And it's brilliant. And I want to thank Daisy Media. He's always there when we need him most. Let's listen to him getting cheered and clapped and applauded for his tenure and how great he did for Canada.
Don't take Trudeau! Don't take the walk in the snow!
No legacy!
Come on! No, 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 no! That's Trudeau leaving for the last time as PM. Here he goes. Here he goes. Trudeau rolling out. Rolling out. Get the heck. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Hey, hey, hey. Goodbye.
Oh, what a refreshing feeling knowing that that idiot is finally gone. Now we have generations that it's going to take to fix the carnage that he's done to our nation. So as great of a day as it is for Canada, it's also not a new beginning in any means, because we have now appointed a dictator. And yes, he is a dictator. He is a non-elected official, non-elected. And all these liberals and NDP that are going, oh, what about Ken Campbell, blah, blah. At least she was elected to a seat. She could go into Parliament as a representative of a riding. This man has zero representation except for the party that destroyed our nation elected him with a very, very small vote. And from what is coming out, and I'm definitely looking into it, is major election fraud within the Liberal Party. And of course, you might have seen my previous episode that I did on Rubidala. She's already doing more as a non-rep, like she's not even in Parliament. She's down in Washington trying to help fix what Trudeau has destroyed. And not just Trudeau. Remember, this is the Liberal NDP that caused this with the help of the Greens and lots of help from the Bloc. Now, even though the Bloc does do some things right, which I would say is Canadian, they still would prefer Quebec over Canada, which really makes listening to a lot of the things they say hard and difficult, because you're supposed to look at Canada as a whole, and it's the division from this type of an attitude that is causing the explosion of separation and anxiety of Western Canada wanting to succeed or leave. And it is still exploding. It's crazy how many people want to leave. The nice thing is more and more people are dumping the whole 51st state crap and getting on board with actually just starting their own country. Now, Carney's not off to a good start. So he brought in, and sure, the media is trying to say, oh, he fired this guy and he fired this guy. He's so different than Trudeau. No, he didn't. He's doing a shuffle. He's trying to gaslight Canadians, and he's using, of course, his media. It's his media now, not Trudeau's. He just took over right where Trudeau left off. There's no difference. They've been propping him up since day one. And really, you got to be quite simple to not see that. So make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to get more people out there aware of the media bias, the crap, the socialist, communist type media that we have. So back to Carney. How tone deaf can you possibly be with what's going on in Western Canada to not appoint a single Western MP in his new cabinet? And how tone deaf do you have to be to want to flee to the EU when we are being attacked by the two largest superpowers economically and militarily in the world, thanks to this liberal government? Still, media not talking about China. They're not talking about it. The effects it is having on the West and what it's going to do to the West is unbelievable. I'm going to put Mo, and listen carefully to what he says, because he is absolutely correct.
I noticed this morning already that his first planned international visit is to the European Union. Not good. Not good. We don't have a trade war with the European Union today. We are in the midst of a trade war with the United States of America and China, the two largest economies in the world and our two largest export markets and trading partners. To choose to go to the European Union is beyond what I could understand as being in any way impactful or representing Canadians. And so I would ask Mr. Carney to reconsider that, engage immediately with the Chinese government, continue and engage and lay his plan out with respect to how he is going to engage with the United States of America. And I would suggest that plan should not include anything in the way of export tariffs, because that is very much one of the threats that has been identified by Saskatchewan industry as being one of the 5 tariff-related threats that are going to end jobs for a period of time in this country, and ultimately are not in any way finding our way towards that North American energy and food security goal that Saskatchewan really plays a part in.
This is the reality. The media is really helping to push this separation, this succession. We need more people to start really sharing the word about these Chinese tariffs. Any platform that my viewers are on, make sure that you make a point of stating this. This has been going on for generations, and we got to end it. If we're going to have any hope to keep our nation, our sovereignty, and keep us together, we need to work together. And in order to do that, we got to start using our platforms, using our voices to show the hypocrisy, the idiocy, and the Laurentian elite's power, especially now that we've been taken over by not just the Laurentian elite, like we have been for generations, but from outside global sources. Now, I'm going to show a video here. This is Kevin O'Leary, but it starts off with a little bit of a reality check of what's going on down south and the reality of this whole green agenda. I urge you watch previous episodes if you're a new subscriber or new viewer. I've done lots on how I expose Brookfield, which is Carney's baby. It's his investment company that's supposed to be oh so green, and the damages that they cause to third world nations. What they are doing down in Brazil right now it's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Take a listen. This is the reality of the green agenda and the hypocrisy and stupidity that they do. But our media doesn't talk about it. They only try to say how good this green push is, how good it is to shut down our businesses, how good it is for us to pay taxes to try and change the environment, even though we don't even register as a people. We have more trees. We're more of a carbon sink than we are a carbon emitter. This has already been proven. NASA's even taken lots of images from space proving this. we got to move past this crap. Enough shutting our businesses down. But these are the hypocrites. Listen to what, especially at the beginning of the clip. I'm going to play the whole clip, and then I'm going to show you another clip about what's going on down in the Amazon. This is disgusting. This is the Green New Deal. This is what all these green zealot religious warriors are too brainwashed and ignorant to understand that the real environmentalists, like myself, people like myself who are real environmentalists, who try to care for the environment, who recycle, who do everything they possibly can to make sure that I don't damage anything when I'm gone. It should be just as good as, if not better and cleaner than when I was here. But listen to this. Just listen carefully.
But those climate activists, they are furious, somehow forcing Americans to buy expensive EVs and making their power plants more efficient is a win for the polluters. That's how they think. Meanwhile, the same climate warriors who are screaming about Trump's EPA are the ones that are actually torching the environment in the name of saving it. Right now, tens of thousands of acres of the Amazon rainforest are being chopped down to welcome the COP30 climate summit. That's right. This is what they're doing. They're literally paving over the rainforest, and can't forget that private jets, they're going to touch down there to save the planet, too, because they're bringing all the important people. Kevin, I want to go to you on this because there's so many different angles.
Okay, so I'm just going to fade over to this clip, and then we'll get back to Kevin O'Leary.
Now, as Brazil prepares to host tens of thousands of climate summit delegates later this year, there is visible evidence that the building work is causing deforestation. Tens of thousands of acres of protected forests of the Amazon have been deforested to make way for a new 4-lane highway, as our South America correspondent Ione Wells now reports.
This is going to be a highway, and this is where it's being built. Slicing through the Amazon rainforest. Protected land. Until now. Claudio Verrececci made his living from harvesting acai berries here. Those trees were cut down.
We no longer have the income to support our family. Our fear is someone will come here and say, we're going to need this area to build a gas station, to build a warehouse that will be used by trucks, and then we will have to leave here. We were born and raised here in this community. Then, where are we going to go?
The government here have made a big deal about this COP summit being in the Amazon, about the need to protect the Amazon, but preparations for the summit have already cut down some of the last remaining protected forest in this area.
Scientists fear this could disrupt ecosystems. This clinic, just meters from the new road, treats wild animals. Most, like this sloth, are injured by humans or cars.
We are going to lose an area to release these animals back into the wild, which is the natural environment of these species. It does directly affect the conservation of these animals. Land animals will no longer be able to cross to the other side too, reducing the areas where they occur.
The state government says the highway is sustainable, important for mobility, and will have solar lighting and cycle paths. It's one of many projects to get the city ready to host tens of thousands of people. There's a new city park and conference centre, hotels being frantically built, the port preparing to hold cruise ships to sleep more people. The small airport will be more than tripled in size. For some in the city, this development is welcome.
I think it's a good opportunity for many people, for tourism, to show the beauties of the city. I think the works are being done in a very good way.
I hope that COP30 leaves a really great legacy for us. We hope that the discussions aren't just on paper, but become real actions, so that the population in the future will have cleaner air.
That is the aim, but each move here brings winners and losers. The question is whether the environment will come out victorious. Ione Wells, BBC.
What's your opinion on that? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Personally, I think it's a nightmare. I think the whole thing is just absolute hypocrisy, like I said earlier. You just... I'm looking into this as well because I know that Brookfield gets a lot of the contracts down there because they're in collusion with, you got to remember this, Brookfield originated down there and then became the conglomerate that it is through people like Mark Carney, especially Mark Carney, what he's done and the destruction they've left in their wake. And these people are super corrupt. They use the guise of green, and they have all the media and multi-billionaires backing them, pushing and brainwashing everybody into believing that what they're doing is good, when in the background, behind the curtain, the reality of it is these third world countries are being decimated by their actions. You can see this from space, by the way. And there is a lot of people who are really choked about what's going on. Real environmentalist groups that aren't getting any airtime, that aren't getting any voices. Make sure that you like, share, and spread the word. And again, if you have social media, start spreading this stuff out. We've got to start letting people know. The only way for us to fix the problems is to break the barrier of the propaganda arm and get the truth out. So now that we know that Carney is in power, I'm going to play a little bit of what Trump said yesterday. Actually, no, I'm going to go back first to Mr. O'Leary and listen to what he says.
First, of course, there are the regulations, but also let's just start with this hypocrisy, because it also reminds me of the Tesla conversation. You know, EVs and Tesla were all the way up here before Elon Musk aligned with Donald Trump. Now they want to,
this narrative
flush him down the toilet.
This narrative started last year's COP conference when the head of it, who was the UAE leader, stood up and said, all this stuff is BS. None of this works. The trouble with all of this environmental regulation, not only domestically in the U.S., but in other countries, you can't measure the effect of the billions you're spending. There's no index you can use to say this is effective. And over time, depending on who's in the White House, people start looking at it saying, we're spending billions, and what are we getting exactly for it? Now, there is an index you can look at that was a disaster, and it's called Canada, because it was the only place where they kept carbon tax in place for 9.5 years. It crushed the economy. And you can easily look at it, parity on the Canadian dollar when Trudeau came into power, and now down 41%. And they've replaced him. He got kicked out basically because he bankrupted 25% of the Canadians on this whole carbon agenda. Yeah. He wiped them out. So you don't want to do that anywhere else. He's the glowing example of how stupid it can be. And they made sure that they tarnished him as the idiot king for it. Yeah. And so I think it's very hard to drive that in any country now.
And we were just talking about inflation, Dagan, over the last 4 years.
And he's absolutely correct. He's absolutely correct. And again, O'Leary, like him or hate him, a lot of what he says, especially because he is a huge businessman, a multi-millionaire, he sees things through a different lens. And yes, of course, there are the corporate, and you got to say, well, he's a polluter and he can do this and he can do that. And you know what? I'm not going to argue with that aspect because it's true. A lot of these big corporations, they leave a lot of destruction in their wake. But most of what he speaks when he talks about especially the green agenda and what Trudeau's done, he's bang on the money. He's bang on the money. Trudeau has destroyed our nation. We've never seen more division ever in our nation. We have racism at an all-time high, murder all-time high, gun-related crime all-time high. Every single aspect. And there's information coming out. I'm going to try and do another video here. Hopefully I have time today on how, since Trudeau took power, we have surpassed 3-1 the violence and crimes in Canada compared to the States. Let that sink in. We used to be able to leave our doors unlocked. I remember that. As a kid, I remember being able to drive around and my dad would have his hunting rifles in his back window. We didn't have to lock our doors. We never had to worry about that. We were safe. We felt safe. We had not only a policing system that worked for the people, we had the ability as a people to protect ourselves. And we had that community, that tight-knit community. And of all different ethnicities living together in harmony, especially where I grew up. I grew up on a major crossroads, an intersection, if you would call it that, of many different, the little China, the little Italy, the little. And yes, at certain times there were tensions, especially during sporting events, especially when it came to the Italians with their soccer. But there was never aggression. It was always an open debate and a laughable quarrel. There was never the hate that we have. When our neighbors did good, we cheered them on. That's gone. That's been decimated. And it started with the first socialist, his dad. And like I said earlier, we tried to fix this, and we're still not even quite done fixing it. And then we had this goofball come in and just completely obliterate Canada. And we've got to work really hard to try and come together and get that back again. Like, we got to bring back that smile, knock off this whole elbows crap. That is propaganda. Anybody who's doing it, just shake your head at them, smile, and go, not really, sorry, not interested. The reality is we need to start communicating, we need to start backing each other up, and we need to start looking out for each other and our distant neighbors. Atlantic Canada to Western Canada to Central Canada to the prairies we've got to start coming back together, and we need to do this through an election. We need to decimate the Liberal NDP and the Green. They got to go. We got to completely decimate them. The scary part about that is if we end up with too much control within a singular government, this could be a bad thing. And Poilievre ain't doing so well with how he's kind of jumped on the Liberal bandwagon, trying to think that attacking Trump and doubling tariffs and creating this war is a good thing. He's losing a lot of his base on it, and they're flipping and moving towards that separation. And that's what you're seeing a lot of in the polls. You're seeing a lot of people going, whoa, maybe this uniparty is a big thing, and maybe Poilievre isn't so different. Now, I'm rooting for Poilievre. Poilievre and Bernier, I hope they do really good in these elections. We need that change. Poilievre, really this conservative party, and I've said it before, they're more of a liberal conservative. They're not a true big C conservative party, whereas Bernier is what I would call a conservative party, and we have no right wing. Don't let the media tell you we do. We have no right-wing party. We haven't had a right-wing conservative party for 50 years in Canada. 44, some people can argue, but 50 years. That was decimated with the socialism. They started to give up the whole conservative end and try to meet in the middle to try and get votes because the conservatives knew they needed to kiss the elitist butt, the Laurentian elite, in order to stay in power. So every time a conservative would win, in order to hold that seat, he couldn't fundamentally do what was right for Canada. He had to kiss butt, and he had to keep feeding money and power to the Laurentian elite. And this has been Canada's demise. This has been our major, major weak point for generations. Let's move on to Trudeau, or to Trump. And what he had said yesterday. I kind of cut through this, all giving you the parts where he's talking about Canada. Again, I'm not editing. All my information, all my homework is in the description below. I urge you, if anybody out there and you're watching this video and you're going, wow, you're twisting the words, go down. I put all my evidence down below. You can watch it from there. And the nice thing is most of the time when you click on those, they will open other links in the side that if you feel like you wanted to do some homework on it, go right on ahead. Most of the time, the links on the side are somewhat or somehow linked to what the video is there, and it'll help you go even further. And hey, you never know, you'll learn something. Maybe it'll give you a good talking point. Maybe you'll find something. You'll be, hey, Elias, hold on a minute here. Did you see this? If so, put it in the comments. I love to hear what everybody's saying. I'm surprised at how little I get off of the YouTube on all these other social media platforms. I get a lot of really good connection, a lot of good conversations. Man, am I ever meeting a lot of great Canadians too. And again, thank you to all my new subscribers and all the people who like and share. This is amazing. I love to see that type of support, and especially the camaraderie that I'm seeing. It really is amazing. And by the way, I tried to record the lunar eclipse last night, and it was so cloud covered. It actually rained a little wee bit last night, and no, not even orange skies. So terribly sorry. I did answer to a few of you on different social media platforms about that. It is what it is. I missed out. That's too bad, but it's where I am. It's clouds. Now, let's move on to Trump and what he was saying about Canada.
Thank you, Mr. President. A representative of Canada, the finance minister, are in town and will meet members of your administration during the day. Any chances that you will ban on the tariffs on aluminum and the ones that are planned for April 2nd?
No.
You are not going to change your mind?
No, I'm not. Look, we've been ripped off for years, and we're not going to be ripped off anymore. No, I'm not going to bend at all on aluminum or steel or cars. We're not going to bend. We've been ripped off as a country for many, many years. We've been subjected to costs that we shouldn't be subjected to. In the case of Canada, we're spending $200 billion a year to subsidize Canada. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. I have many friends in Canada. The great one, Wayne Gretzky, the great. Hey, how good is Wayne Gretzky? He's the great one. But we have, I know many people from Canada that are good friends of mine. But, you know, the United States can't subsidize a country for $200 billion a year. We don't need their cars. We don't need their energy. We don't need their lumber. We don't need anything that they give. We do it because we want to be helpful, but it comes a point when you just can't do that. You have to run your own country. And to be honest with you, Canada only works as a state. We don't need anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the US, just a straight artificial line. Somebody did it a long time ago, many, many decades ago, and makes no sense. It's so perfect as a great and cherished state. Keeping "O Canada," the national anthem. I love it. I think it's great. Keep it. But it'll be for the state, one of our greatest states. Maybe our greatest state. But why should we subsidize another country for $200 billion? It costs us $200 billion a year. And again, we don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We have more than they do. We don't need anything. We don't need their cars. I'd much rather make the cars here. And there's not a thing that we need. Now, there'll be a little disruption, but it won't be very long. But they need us. We really don't need them. And we have to do this. I'm sorry, we have to do this, yes.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
you have made it very clear that NATO needs to step up.
Of course, he twists his words a little bit in there, but there is some major argument coming where they're saying, well, no, he doesn't have near the amount of energy that Canada has, and he's actually not far off. Yes, he's we'll call it white lying. The subsidies, he's definitely got that out to lunch. He's using that in bad text. But what Alaska has, and what they've slowly been discovering more and more all the time, and the conversion to natural gas away from the typical diesel and gasoline, what they're finding there is huge. Absolutely huge. And now, because fracking, the science of fracking has gotten so good that they've been able to reopen a lot of the old wells that previously they thought they were exasperated, but they weren't. So he's not far off. And I've had a lot of people discussing, well, yeah, but still, they can't produce any other energy. There are still secret meetings going on down in Venezuela. And from what I've been reading, and I'm going to probably do a little bit more once I can build up enough information to get a video made and actually do some proof and evidence on it. But from what I'm seeing so far is the evidence is showing me that they're prepping to start building ships. They're already looking into buying ships to start hauling the crude from Venezuela up to Texas. That would put Canada, that would cut Canada off. If he cuts off our energy, Canada falls. This is what the East keeps on forgetting, and what they try, they don't teach people the reality of what it is. And everybody's like, wow, Ontario is the biggest superpower. Ontario, because of the population and what they deal with, they're more of a textile-based industry, which is really what you call third party. They're part of this intersection of trading goods between each other, rebuilding. And as you're seeing, lots of it goes from the States to Canada, Canada to States, Canada back and forth. The actual economic powerhouse that keeps Canada afloat and pays for all of the social ideas and programs we have comes from Alberta. They've kept us afloat. It was the discovery of oil and the production of oil that took us from a very small, impoverished nation trying to become something great to this growing superpower that all of a sudden got snuffed out because the East wanted the power. They wanted to maintain that stronghold. They did not want the West to have a voice. Why? And this is another thing you forget, is that the green in Parliament is there because it's supposed to represent the fields of the farmers and the people who live outside of the cities that give the food and supply life and money to the cities in order for them to function. It was part of like a community thing in order to bring all of Canada together, not just a huge densely populated area. That's gone. That idea is gone. You might as well paint it red. It's irrelevant because the way that Parliament runs now, they don't give a crap about the everyday people. All they care about is their voter base, which is, millions of people packed into a very small area, and that controls all of Canada. And that's got to change. We got to change that. And in doing so, we have to start to re-educate people. We got to go into the school books and start printing truth so that kids have the chance to learn the reality of what made us a nation and what divides us as a nation, and which we're really starting to see now. It's huge. I'm going to move on to a little wee bit further in his speech. And of course, he dabbles on a few things from here, but I'm just going to run the whole clip because it's all quite interesting.
Well, we're working on one project. It should be very easy. It's a pipeline going through a small section of New York. New York's held it up for years, actually, for years. They've wanted to do it for years and years. And it will reduce the most expensive energy almost in the world is in New England because they have no way of getting it there because it's been held up by New York. And the whole of New England and Connecticut and New York, the energy prices are through the roof. And this one pipeline will save per family $2,500 just on heating and another $2,500 on everything else. So the energy, by just a simple pipeline going through an area that wants it, an area that's not a rich area, it's actually a very poor area, would create jobs and everything else. And it's going to be way underground. Nobody's going to see it. Once they fill it up, nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to know it's there. And families in New York and Connecticut and New England are going to save $5,000 a family.
So this is all part of the push to cut off Canadian energy, to literally start to encompass and surround Canada and create major economic strife, the takeover. And again, you can thank Dougie for throwing himself in front, looking like an idiot, a tricycle, like I said before, trying to ride against a freight train. He's focused Trump's anger, and it's coming for Ontario first. And the way that the East is talking, it sounds like he's coming for all of Canadian electric. He wants to stop it, period. And this is his way of doing it they're going to start bringing diesel generators back online for backup. And he's going to start allowing and speeding up the process, reducing regulatory hurdles for them to start building natural gas power plants. And of course, nuclear power plants as well, which in these states they're very hard to build. So he's going to start with the LNG and go from there, as well as start looking at the building export ports to start getting LNG to European markets. Once again, this guy is so far ahead of Canada. We're in the dust storm. We need to concentrate hard on removing the government we have now, getting a complete new government in, and hopefully a leader kind of like, and I hate to say like Trump, better than Trump because he's arrogant, but he's also brilliant. What he's doing for the States right now is incredible, absolutely incredible. And we should have been there generations ago. But again, like I said, the Laurentian elite have held us back, And I mean, we could have been the largest, richest nation on the planet 50 years ago, 40 years ago. And yeah, the East has held their foot on the West for so long that this is why we're in the state that we're in now.
Look at that. Because right now they have the highest energy prices maybe in the world, they say. New England is a disaster. So we're working on that. In fact, the governor's coming in, Governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, who's a very nice woman. She's coming in tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to meet me on that and other things. Not only that, but other things. So I hope we don't have to use the extraordinary powers of the federal government to get it done. But if we have to, we will. But I don't think we'll have to. I can tell you Connecticut wants it and all of New England wants it. And who wouldn't want it? And it's also jobs on top of everything else. So that's going to be very exciting. So we're meeting with the governor tomorrow morning.
Mr. President, some people question. Thank you, Mr. President. Greenland. What is your vision for the potential annexation of Greenland and getting them potentially to
Well, I think it'll happen. And I'm just thinking, I didn't give it much thought before, but I'm sitting with a man that could be very instrumental. You know, Mark, we need that for international security, not just security, international. We have a lot of our favorite players, cruising around the coast, and we have to be careful. And we'll be talking to you. It's a very appropriate, really a very appropriate question.
There's an
Thank
issue
you
in the
very
high
much.
north, so the Arctic. So what you did. So when it comes to Greenland, yes or not joining the US, I would leave that outside for me, this discussion, because I don't want to drag NATO in that. But when it comes to the high north and the Arctic, you are totally right. The Chinese are now using these routes. We know that the Russians are rearming. We know we have a lack of icebreakers. So the fact that the outside Russia, there are 7 Arctic countries working together on this under US leadership is very important to make sure that that region, that part of the world stays safe. And we know things are changing there and we have to be there.
Well, we just had an election there the other day. Do you see a referendum, a plebiscite, where the people of Greenland would be in a position to decide if they want to become part of the United States?
Yeah, it was a good election for us, as you know. It was not a referendum. It wouldn't be called that. It was an individual election. But the person that did the best is a very good person, as far as we're concerned. And so we'll be talking about it, and it's very important. Mark mentioned the word icebreaker. So we've ordered, we're in the process of ordering 48 icebreakers. And Canada wants to know if they could use them. I said, well, you got to pay for them. Think of it, Canada. We pay for their military. Canada pays very little for their military because they think we're going to protect them. But even with the icebreakers, so we're going to order 48, and Canada wants to be part of the deal. I say, you got to get your own icebreakers. I mean, if you're a state, you can be part of the deal. But if you're a separate country, you got to get your own icebreakers. Russia, as you know, has about 40 of them. And we have one big icebreaker. But that whole area is becoming very important. And for a lot of reasons, the routes are, very direct to Asia, to Russia, and you have ships all over the place. And we have to have protection. So we're going to have to make a deal on that. And Denmark is not able to do that. Denmark's very far away and really has nothing to do. What happens? A boat landed there 200 years ago or something, and they say they have rights to it. I don't know if that's true. I don't think it is, actually. But we've been dealing with Denmark. We've been dealing with Greenland, and we have to do it. We really need it for national security. I think that's why NATO might have to get involved in a way, because we really need Greenland for national security. It's very important. We have a couple of bases on Greenland already, and we have quite a few soldiers, and maybe you'll see more and more soldiers go there. I don't know. What do you think about that, Pete? So don't answer that, Pete. Don't answer that question. But we have bases, and we have quite a few soldiers on Greenland.
Some people question your commitment to NATO. Will anything change? Your commitment to NATO. Will anything change? Same amount of money?
Well,
he goes in there with the NATO bit and kind of he uses what Canada said when Trudeau kind of popped up there. Wow, what happens if people are delinquent and they're not paying? Or that's you saying you're not going to defend us? And especially since Canada asked the question because of how 86 IQ our leader is, he definitely blasted and said, no, I'm not going to protect you. In fact, they invade, they invade. This is the reality. This is Canada's problem. We need to fix this. We need to fix our nation. We need to come together. We need to cut off the propaganda arms. We need to bring reality back. And we start by breaking the knees of the corporations that are holding Canada hostage. It's the only way we can do this. We need to step forward. We need to unite. And God knows we have our work ahead of us. We are in bad times, people. We are so divided. We are so broke. And we are so behind where we should be. The one nice thing, the one great thing about the era that we live in now is that they can't use the textbooks anymore to protect their ideologies. What they did protecting and hyping the loser of a leader called Trudeau Sr. is coming to an end. Now we have this world. I will be here for thousands of years, hopefully, if mankind still exists, as evidence and proof of what Trudeau and these evil people have done, these corporations, these globalists. And if we're going to get any better, we need to make sure that we protect freedom of speech and freedom of information and freedom of knowledge. And we have to make sure that now that especially we're in this zone, that we have the ability to do that, that we can start to correct, especially the educational systems, and exposing people for who they are and what they did. Trudeau destroyed Western Canada, Trudeau Sr. And as a nation, he degraded us on a global stage, and we were just starting to get back, and then his kid came along and did 10 times as much damage. And thank God with this medium, he will go down in infamy as being the worst prime minister on the face of the planet. And it's true. And not that it was just him. It's not like it's just his tenure that did this. It's the Laurentian elite that started this. And the control of a democracy because of the powerful in Central Canada that has kept us where we are today. We, like I said, we need to move forward. We need to get rid of these people. We need to start educating people, and it starts with sharing, and subscribing to channels like mine and getting the word out there. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'm going to try and rip another one off. We've got a lot of stuff going on today. I apologize about the solar or the lunar eclipse, like I said to my viewers. I was really hoping on capturing it on footage, especially where I am, because there is zero light pollution. But Mother Nature, she said, not this time, Alias, not this time. So until next time, you've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, Alias Tagai. I will see you soon.